Okay, by the way?
Your lighting is perfect.
I don't want to be too dark.
You look great. No, you look great. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for the Leopard Solutions, how to create a successful alumni relations program at your law firm. We have so much to delve into today. So we're going to, dive right in, and don't hesitate, please, to put questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I have put a link to all of our LinkedIn profiles. I hope you will connect with us, and I'll have a few more links to put in shortly. Okay, so this is our webinar. These are our speakers. I'm joined by great folks here today who are going to introduce themselves in just a little bit. And before we start doing that, I just have a few slides to present. These are all of the things that we are going to cover, and it's such great insights from different vantage points today, and I'm really excited, and you'll hear more about our speakers' backgrounds. But alumni relations is so important. It's such an investment, and it is something that every law firm, no matter how big or small you are, should be doing. If you have employees who have left your firm, you need an alumni relations program. So we're going to delve into all of these things. And I was just saying before we started recording, we've come such a long way from alumni relations programs being, yearly cocktail parties at a nice venue somewhere, and an alumni directory, a hard copy directory, which I was putting together 20 years ago when I first started in this industry. And there's so many touch points you now can have with an alum to really help you with a lot of different things, and it's a reciprocal relationship. I just want to mention, and I'll put a link to register for this in a moment. We have another webinar on Friday with some top legal recruiters and one of the leading sales executives from Leopard Solutions, talking about this insane year and what you can do in terms of the Great Resignation, and we hope to turn that around into the Great Retention, and how you can stand out and retain your people. So that's on Friday at 12:30. If you have any suggestions for future programs, do let me know. And we have one more future program coming up to really round out 2021. I said to Phil before, I'm like, I cannot believe it's November. I don't know if you guys also feel that way. This year has flown by. I feel like we've almost lost like 18 months of our lives, but we've been doing so much, working so hard. So this is a look at the booming 2021 legal hiring market, and then predictions of what's to come in 2022. We're so excited to have David Latt as a confirmed speaker, in addition to a number of other speakers TBA. So I hope you'll join for that. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern time on December 7th. I will put a link to both of these in a moment so you can register. And if you're not able to attend live, do register, because you will get the recording as well as some other takeaways and things for only people who register. Okay, so we would delve into all of this, and if you would like a copy of the slides, do let us know. You can put that in the chat. You can also reach out to Phil, and I'll put his email in the chat as well. Actually, Phil, do you mind putting your email in the chat? If you want the slides, you can contact Phil. So these are all of the ways that alumni relations can help your law firm. I'm sure we'll delve into all of these: recruiting, lateral pipeline initiatives. We've got brand building. We've got obviously boomerang employees. Your alums can return back to your organization. Thinking about also secondments, right? And you've got GCs, and you've got, individuals that can become clients. There are so many different ways that alumni relations can be beneficial to you and your firm. An alumni relations program is so much more than, like I said, periodic events and an alumni database or website. It's about creating a supportive community throughout the life cycle of an alum's relationship. And for those of you who are not familiar with Latin, I know that Danya and Matthew know this like I do, but the male singular of so alumni is the plural, alumnus is the male, alumna is speaking about a woman, female, okay? And alumnae, AE, is female, women, plural, and alumni is male, plural. Guys, did I get that right? I know there's like a lot of terms. People sometimes will do like alum, and then that'll be it, right?
Alumni is indeed male, plural, but it's also used for male and female, plural.
Yes, right. The generic, it's like encapsulating everyone. Exactly. So that took a little while. So I took Latin for like one semester. I did not do well, but I know this, so that's good. So
That and pluribus unum.
Right? Yes. So an alumni relations program is also about creating opportunity for alumni to reconnect with each other. That's why they want to join. They, yes, care about information about your firm, but at the crux of it, they want to connect with each other. And promoting your alumni and their successes should be really at the heart of your alumni program. This is why a lot of firms will do alumni class notes. And I know universities do that. I see some law firms do that. It was one of the biggest drivers of people reading any electronic newsletter I did for law firm alumni programs. So keep that in mind too. Promoting your alumni and their promotions, their successes, those sorts of things is very valuable and will enable them and encourage them to give you their contact info, which is also really tantamount to a successful program. When you're thinking about an alumni relations program, I'd like you all to think about these three things. And Danya and Matthew, I would love for you to add to this, but inclusivity, community, reciprocity. And we'll delve into all of these things. And I want to stress this. It doesn't matter how or why a lawyer left your firm, as long as they didn't embezzle, harass anybody. I think they should be invited into the alumni program. Relationships and sour feelings. Okay, not everybody's going to make partner. Not everybody's going to cut it as an associate. You will part ways with your people, particularly now in this great resignation. Don't take it personally. Invite them back into the program. I can't tell you how many law firms will say, oh, we shouldn't invite so-and-so. They left on bad terms. They'll badmouth us. Let me tell you something. They'll badmouth you more if you leave them out of the alumni program. And the other thing to think about is that any and everybody is a potential recruit, referral source, or source of goodwill. And you want to make sure you've got a really strong connection with everybody and you can fix things with an alumni relations program. I've seen it work firsthand, okay? Another thing to remember is a lot of law firms don't want to invite competitors to programs, or they'll discount, say, oh, we shouldn't invite so-and-so because they work at, a law firm. I think it's a huge mistake. Again, every and anybody can be a potential referral source or source of business. And also they could be conflicted out of a matter. They could refer an associate to you. You never know. So err on the side of inclusivity. And then when it comes to law firm relations, like I said, I just want to stress this, you build community with inclusiveness, okay? Accurate alumni data is the most important aspect of your alumni program, or you might as well not even have one, because all these events, all these things you're doing won't matter if you can't reach your alums. And I used to spend hours, so this is actual footage of me back 20 years ago, trying to find alumni through the phone book, guys, through the Google. This is way before LinkedIn. So my first law firm job was I was working at Paul Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton, and Garrison to run their alumni relations program. Had no idea what I was doing. I figured it out, but I had to make a hard copy directory. Now you don't need to do what I did in terms of finding people, and nor should you have a hard copy directory because it's outdated, right? So now we have a LinkedIn, we have virtual ways of getting in touch with people, we have databases, and I'm going to talk to the group about this, but you need data, and Phil's going to talk about how to use data, mine the data, find out where your people are, because you may know their employer when they left your firm if you have an exit interview process in place, but they probably have left, especially over the last 18 months. You don't know where anybody is right now unless you're tracking them and providing reasons, compelling reasons for them to stay in touch with you, okay? So I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves, just telling you a little bit about me. I now work with law firms and legal service providers as a consultant and an outsourced CMO. And I worked in-house at law firms and ran the alumni programs for Paul Weiss, Sullivan and Cromwell, Proskauer, Morrison and Foerster, and Mayer Brown. And the most innovative program I ran was the one at Proskauer, and I can talk about that later. Phil, would you mind introducing yourself? Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Stefanie. Yeah, I appreciate you putting together this great panel. So my name is Phil Flora. I'm head of sales and marketing here at Leopard Solutions. I've been in the industry for over 20 years as a service provider, helping law firms, law schools, corporations leverage research to help with things like developing alumni programs, but also just for competitive intelligence, recruiting, business development, and so on. So appreciate it again for Matthew and Danya for joining us today with Stefanie.
Awesome. Thank you. And talent retention, talent cultivation should be at the heart of your strategy. I'm working with several law firms right now in their recruiting marketing strategy, and I wouldn't be able to do my job effectively if I didn't have tools like Leopard to help me do that. I wish I had a Leopard tool 20 years ago, so especially with alumni data. Okay, Matthew Pascocello, can you tell us about you?
Yeah, thank you. So, really glad to be here. Thanks so much to Leopard Solutions, Stefanie, for inviting me. And I'm actually looking forward to learning as well. So perhaps like Phil, I've been around for a couple of decades in this industry, but only more recently in the alumni development, alumni relations world. I came over a few years ago to this office at the Washington College of Law, the Development and Alumni Relations Office, from the career office, where I had been serving as the alumni counselor for the last, for a couple of decades. So I'm the director of alumni professional development at the Washington College of Law as a 9 to 5. And I'm very much engaged not only in alumni relations, but also in the development context and the fundraising part of things. So the two components really are symbiotic and they connect beautifully. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But another hat that I wear is as a professor here at the main campus, teaching, designing and teaching classes at the undergraduate level, at the pre-law level. And then I also do private attorney career coaching. So I've got my fingers in a bunch of pots, but our 9 to 5 is doing the alumni career and professional development here in the Office of Development and Alumni Relations at the Washington College of Law. I hope that wasn't a mouthful.
Matthew, it's great. And if you want to put your email address in there as well, please feel free. One of the things I don't think law schools do enough of is prepare their students to become an associate, especially with regard to cultivating business. And I know sometimes associates will get to law firms and they'll be discouraged, and to build your own book of business. And I think it's terrific that you guys have these programs. And I've guest lectured at Wharton. I just wish that there were more law schools doing this. And even you said it's pre-law, so it's even earlier than that, which I think is so terrific. And then Danya, I have your old headshot, I'm sorry, in this presentation, please forgive me, but I did spell your name correctly this time, which is great. So Danya, tell us about you.
Sure, so I got involved in alumni relations when I worked at Columbia Law School back in 2011. So I was at Columbia Law School and I was their assistant director of alumni relations and international events. And then a few years ago, I moved into the corporate alumni relations space. So I've developed and launched impactful alumni programs at Verisk, Greenberg Traurig, and now I'm at Cy-Flar Shaw. And I hold an MS in corporate communications at NYU and a BS at Northeastern University. I don't have any other jobs besides what I'm doing right now. So that's about it.
That's a lot to be doing. So you're allowed. So awesome. Can't wait to hear from you on all of the things that you're doing. And then just really quickly, and I can send you guys a link to this if you want. There's an article that I wrote, and there's an article in JD Supra that I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to me about this, which is why in part I put together this program. There are so many components to a really successful alumni relations program, and I want to get your thoughts on these. But one of the best ways to get your alumni to engage is CLE credit and offering them opportunities for pro bono work, creating opportunities, like I said, for alumni to reconnect with each other, offering a combination of events, making them look good with that class notes section in your e-newsletter. One of the tenets of the program at Proskauer was we put together an alumni board of directors, and it was very strategic. It was former clients, it was in-house counsel, it was a judge, it was very, very, like I said, handpicked people, very strategic. And I recommend that firms do that as well. It's a great way to empower the alums and have them take control over the program and hear directly from those folks. And then, like I said, you have to have updated contact info. So Phil's going to get into that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I want to delve into the first question of the day. So let's talk to Danya first. Danya, tell us what do you agree with the things I said are components for a successful alumni program? And do you have any other ideas for what, how a law firm can create a successful alumni relations program?
Yes. Well, first of all, I agree with everything you said. I read your article too, and it makes a lot of sense. Being in corporate alumni relations is a unique role, so it's also a cross-functional role. So not only in adding to having an advisory board or what you mentioned before, you have to become familiar with the firm's culture. For me, this involves going on a listening tour, meeting people in your office, and just developing relationships, because in this role, you're going to be working with the technology team, you're going to be working with HR and marketing and on the legal team. So this is a role that's going to go in a lot of different departments. I believe you touched upon it, how leadership buy-in is really important, and having them actively engaged on the alumni site and having them attend events and encourage existing attorneys to join as well. And I was similar to you when I started. I highly recommend creating an advisory board, and that involved, for me, 3 attorneys from the executive committee and an alum. Or we can have alumni cheerleaders, so have an attorney in every single office that can assist with launching or having a successful alumni program.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, Matthew, what advice do you have for law firms from your vantage point on creating a successful alumni relations program? What do you think are some of the components of that?
So, you sent around a few questions. I jotted a few talking points around them. But
well, thank you for that.
Not to be completely redundant here, but I think some of the missteps can include, and I'm talking more from the big picture of alumni relations, not necessarily exclusively to law firms, because that's not necessarily my playground as yet. But I think where I see some disconnects are a failure of stated mission and purpose. That is to say, why are we doing this? I've seen law firms over the decades throw money, talent, just to check boxes on various initiatives. Going back 20 years ago to the big thing was law firm marketing. And it was like, oh yeah, we have to do law firm marketing. And it was this hodgepodge creation and Frankenstein, a commitment to law firm marketing, until that sort of grew up and law firms realized that they actually are profit centers and businesses, and they really do have to market. And I've seen ebbs and flows with commitments to what was a taboo subject, work-life balance back in the day, and now it's so much part of the law firm DNA that it's actually a recruiting tool. So similarly with alumni relations, and again, I don't want to talk out of my area here, because you folks, law firms out there, understand what the commitment is, but I dare say there's probably a similar set of growing pains with respect to what should alumni relations look like. Why the heck are we doing it? Are we just lemmings following other law firms doing it? We're supposed to have it, therefore we do it. Do we have leadership buy-in? Do we have stated, articulated goals? Do we have matrices from which we're going to the return on the investment? So I think there needs to be cohesion at the top, buy-in from leadership, and then true marching orders, which can be calibrated and adjusted as you go forward. But I would say you need that to begin with. And then, of course, you need the commitment of the associates, because if you're relying on an attrition model of growth, they need to know that they're going to be loved and cared for the day after they leave the firm, because they're moving on, they're going in-house, they're not working out, they're going lateral for all their upper-out partners, whatever the case may be. They need to know, as we've all stated, that the firm has sort of got you back. Of course, they did something nefarious or illegal, but barring that, you want to create this sort of affinity relationship, the symbiotic relationship with the firm as an alumnus. So as long as people are principled and on the same page, the rest, I think, is just logistics and how you want to do what kind of programs, et cetera. I think consistent communications are critical, and they have to be uniformed and throughout the firm, and of course, alumni buy-in. I mean, again, these are just some some of the many bullet points you already spoke to, but
yeah, but illustrating it from your vantage point is incredibly helpful. I mean, you know, and it's important for people to hear these things. So one of the most successful things that I did as when running an alumni program was offering, like I said, was my first bullet point on one of the slides, which was offering CLE. So we offered CLE credit to our alums so they could tap into our already online library. They could also attend programs in person. And we had a specific program for in-house counsel alumni. Then we featured some other alums in the program. It was an in-person program, which, you know, this is back in the day before COVID, before we knew how to use Zoom, and before we were doing virtual events to the extent that we were a very New York-centric firm. So there was a lot of stuff in New York. I wish we had adopted the idea of virtual, because we would, you know, I wish law firms would just stop having in-person programs that are CLEs and just offer them remotely, you know, and virtually. So the CLE program was amazing because a lot of times you go in-house or you're not a law firm anymore and you don't have access to the CLEs that you had. And then pro bono opportunities. So making those available to our alums was incredibly useful, successful, and helpful to them. So Danya, let me start with you. What do you think has been one of the, or several of the most successful things that you did to engage with alumni?
Well, I just wanted to take a few steps back before engaging alums, because I think what was mentioned before with the mission and purpose is important. And before I start an actual program, I want to talk to our advisory board on discussing 4 key decision points before I build the program. So for me, the first one is to agree on alumni program objectives and our mission. Okay, is this what we want to do? Do we all agree on this? The second one is identify who to include in the alumni program. Especially this could get tricky with law firms, as you mentioned before, because sometimes law firms only want to include attorneys that went in-house, or they don't want to include attorneys that went to other law firms. So this is a big discussion. The third is determining an alumni platform. And then the fourth is just talking about immediate next steps and timeline before we start doing all the fun, engaging stuff. I mean, you mentioned before some engaging content. I think obviously a job board, especially with the Great Resignation, is huge right now to engage alumni, and posting in-house positions from your clients. I think people are now so over COVID that even though we aren't really, I mean, we're almost there yet with in-person events, but we're not. So just doing more videos and engaging people, like an alumni spotlight, seeing what people are doing, just hearing from them, having it be more interactive, even doing boomerang spotlights in case we can't find an alum, just people that went and came back from the firm, and seeing what they're doing. That's engaging. Pro bono, community service opportunities. People still want to help out. People still want to give back, especially during this time of year. And making sure you target industry news based on the alumni industry and practice area, because you don't want to lose them as soon as you get them. You don't want to go and start looking at articles that don't relate to you at all, because then the alum's going to unsubscribe. So those are a few things that I think about when engaging a particular alum at the law firm.
Awesome. Great. Matthew, anything you want to add? Like, what's been the most successful for you and the things that you've done to engage with alums?
Yeah, and as Danya did, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off the last thing she said with respect to at least maybe market segmentation, or at least creating affinity groups that make sense, because I dare say, you know, the antitrust lawyer alumni don't necessarily want to be at the same group as the trust and estates folks, not because they don't like each other, but because they don't perceive any symbiosis or any value, which is a shame, because I'm sure there could be a lot of cross-pollination between the two. But the point being, you know, as an immediate of immediate value, you want to show that the alumni that the event, the program, whatever that you're offering is indeed targeted to their needs. Having said that, again, from the law school side, it's a bit more macro. I try to target things like that, but I also do a little bit of one size fits all. So I developed and I have about 7,000 plus subscribers to my weekly alumni career and professional development listserv. I'm very professional development heavy in my alumni relations dynamic. So there's a bigger part of our alumni relations office that does a lot of the cocktail events, and I do a lot of that as well. But I try to, I'm really a content provider, a substance generator, and my weekly listservs push out the weekly job postings for entry level as well as lateral. Every month I feature one of my 1,000+ alumni mentors of the month. I created an alumni mentor system, and that's searchable by all predictable data points. And I do a webinar every month, at least one webinar. I'm doing one actually next Tuesday on immigration, hot immigration topics during COVID, and at the end of the month, ramifications to antitrust law in the Biden administration. So these are substantive, these are sort of light, but they give the alumnus an opportunity to be out there. It gives me an opportunity to promote the alumnus, just like, you know, we're promoting each other, so to speak, in addition to adding value to our audience, hopefully. And it offers them that. It also has news and an alumni bulletin board. So in addition to the city groups that we have, I was just up in New York having a big fat steak dinner, introducing dog and pony style, the new dean, to some, you know, probably high net worth individuals. So there's the development side of the equation, and then there's the alumni relations side. They don't live in two separate worlds. They oftentimes integrate, but sometimes alumni relations are just for that. There's no ulterior motive. There's no profit motive there. They're really just to create good, solid relationships. And to the extent they're cultivated into producing something later on, so be it. I think approaching this with business goals, but also with some sense of altruism and authenticity, I think inures to the benefit of the firm, to the school, and ultimately to the alumni, which pays back dividends in terms of goodwill.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Giving back to your alumni will come back to you in spades. I also think so another thing that I did at another firm was a future leaders. So it was like a future leaders group for alumni, and we did it by class year. We also, you know, so segmenting your alumni, like I agree with you that not everybody wants to go to everything, although it's nice for them to know all of the things you're doing for the community. But I think even offering class years or a corporate alumni event, a litigation alumni event, like, you know, or just resources that would be of interest to them is also something to think about. And making sure your associates are part of this program now, so they see the community that's available to them when they leave, if they leave, I think is also very important. One of the other things I would recommend that people do is to invite your alums back to your, you know, people are doing this and they've been doing it forever. You know, marketing will work with the alumni group and the recruiting folks and have your alums come back, you know, alumni in public service, alumni in in-house roles, alumni who work and the judiciary. So consider that. It's great to hear their trajectory. And Matthew, I couldn't agree more. And I think, Danya, you also mentioned this, spotlights. So spotlighting your alumni in publications is great. I've done alumni magazines for many years. I unfortunately had Elliot Spitzer on the cover of one of mine, but you just never know, you know, it's a collector's item now. But there are prominent alums everywhere, and they're really, people love being asked to be profiled. I was nervous about reaching out to him at that point, and he was, you know, kind of a celebrity at that point, but he was happy to do it. So you just never know.
Stefanie, flattery will get you out of everywhere.
It really will. It really will. So I think you absolutely should. If you have some big name people who even worked at your firm for a short period of time, I would invite them to be part of the program. I also would encourage people to think about the alumni relations program in terms of not just lawyers, but staff. I hate that term, Danya, I'm sure you hate it too. There are some really great people who could have been a paralegal at your firm years ago who went on to become a lawyer, but they don't technically qualify for the alumni program because they weren't actually an associate. Same thing for a summer associate. We realized we had like a former now Supreme Court justice as a summer at one of my prior firms. Why wouldn't we invite that person? And I was told, well, summer associates aren't part of our alumni relations program. And I said, well, they probably should be. So then we expanded that network. which leads me to my question for Phil, which is so I had like, I don't know, I want to say 10,000 alumni at one firm, 7,000 at another. It's a lot of information overload. Keeping track of people and where they've gone is incredibly difficult. So Phil, from the alumni data point of view and how to find your alums, what would you say? I mean, you saw that picture of me at Little House on the Prairie. I don't ever want to go back to the way things were.
That must have been very successful, Steph, I have to say.
I'm still in the industry, Phil. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say, obviously everyone's touched on some great programs and some great ideas. And, I think Matthew, you talked about the listserv that you've created. And I think that's extremely imperative, right? Your data is going to drive your alumni program. And how good your data is going to really dictate, the success of it, right? Now, I think if you build a great community, like you've talked about, like Stefanie, you've talked about, where it's engaging and you have people, actively responsive to the content and everything, the programs you're putting together, they'll be more willing to be responsive and help you maintain their information, reach back out to you. But other than just tasking individuals within your organization to just constantly sit there and look out in the open web, LinkedIn, look at all the various resources to keep your data source up to date, or as having people come back to you, it's imperative to have an external resource. And that's one of the things that we've been talking to clients, all types of clients, with regards to helping them find the people that have left their organization and kind of where are they now. So we've been, for those that aren't familiar, I mean, Leopard Solutions, we've been collecting data on attorneys for almost 20 years. We've grown that database to encompass over 400,000 active attorneys from both law firms and in-house corporate counsel. And we update that data pretty much twice a week. So we ran some statistics and we found that just looking, obviously this year has been an exceptionally volatile year. And there's been a lot of movement, a lot of job openings in the attorney world, and it's just been explosive and record breaking. But over the last 5 years, we found that there were, just within the top 200 firms, we track over 4,200 firms, but in just the last 5 years, there have been 15,000 attorneys that have worked within a top 200 firm at one point or another. As of today, active attorneys is about 148,000 attorneys. So there's been about 69% of the attorneys from that were within that top 200 are no longer within that top 200. We found that 27% of that group actually worked the full 5 years at one firm. So it's just amazing the amount of volatility and movement, even during down years or quieter years, if you will. So keeping tabs of those folks where they are is a monumental task. And, that's one of the things that we've done since we've spoken to a lot of our clients is, they've come to us and asked us, how can you help us? Because we know the data is there. How could you help us manage where those folks are? So we came out with this Alumni Tracker a few months back, and it just simply allows you to plug in an attorney and kind of see where they are right now. And we track both active and what we call as inactive attorneys. And what that means is that an individual that's no longer at one of the firm's organizations we track. And so it's just a paramount part of the whole process. And we've heard from a number of clients the amount of time and resources it takes to develop that list and then maintain that list going forward. So that's I think the piece of the pie that we could provide some assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish that this existed years ago when I was doing this. I'm curious, Matthew and Danya. So Danya, how do you find your alums and who helps you do that? Is it you? Is it CRM people? People move around so much, so like it's impossible to know where they are. So I'm curious how you guys are doing it at Greenberg Traurig, and how are you doing it at State Farm Shaw?
Sure. So the first thing I do is when I start, I look at the data and interaction. Most of it is not updated. So before I start looking like how you were manually going back, like Little House on the Prairie, I reach out to the
olden days, guys.
I reach out to the different practice groups and different offices to say, like, hi, do you have a alumni list for labor and employment? Hi, do you have a list in your Phoenix office? Because some offices are more proactive with their alumni lists and keep it updated than other offices. Same goes with practice groups. Or again, to make it even more complicated, some practice groups say, oh, we have an updated alumni list, but only people that went in-house. So I'm sitting there collecting like as much as I can so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. But then I also, get LinkedIn recruiter license at the firm. That way I go in and I filter past attorneys at Greenberg Tarek or at Cypher Shaw, and I look at the number. And then at Greenberg, I actually worked with an in-house data engineer who was so helpful. And I mean, this wasn't her main job, but she did help me by running lists and finding attorney info for me. But now I was really interested in hearing what Phil said, because I'm going to be probably contacting you guys on finding updated email addresses, since you're right, in order to have a successful alumni program, you have to have good data. And then you have to make sure that, to find out where you store that good data, because at my current firm, there are so many databases. We have Interaction, we have VI Desktop, we have SharePoint, we have Workday. So once we figure out where we're going to store it, then I think I will be reaching out to you guys.
And
Yeah, and
Don,
I
you're
think-
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's, what you're talking about, that example is commonplace, right? It's across all different firms, large and small. There is a lot of internal data that, and again, also law schools too. Law schools
Yeah.
have, we found that 52% of the top 20 law schools, all their attorneys have moved in the last, 5 years. So, law schools, law firms, corporations, anyone that's trying to maintain that alumni, it's extremely powerful to have that data. But there is a lot of internal data. There is a lot of external data. There's a lot of resources, a lot of time and effort that people can dedicate to doing this. So, I think we've seen and we've heard from a lot of our clients that there's a lot of value in what, having an external organization that can help with that management of that and putting it all together once, but then keeping it updated going forward, I think is.
Well, right. That is key, right? It's like you can find out where that person went. Like I said, so part of your exit interview process should have a form where an alum, where that associate or lawyer is going, and they fill out their contact info. Now, they may not do it. It depends, how did their departure go? You may find out, okay, they're going to, let's say, IBM. Okay. Maybe they'll give you their email. Maybe they don't have it yet. Maybe they want you to contact them at Hotmail. Does anyone have a Hotmail account still? Whatever it is.
My wife does.
Okay, well, there you go. And she's on Little House on the Prairie also.
She loves that show. She loves that show.
So did I, right back in the day. So you may have their personal email address, which is actually, obviously very helpful, but you may have where they went at that moment in time. That doesn't mean that they're still there a year or two later, which is like, you can have your list, but it has to be a living, breathing thing that needs to be constantly updated. And that's so important. Danya, your point about, like in-house counsel, alumni list, or Phoenix office list is so interesting. I can't tell you how many databases I don't see that, like, there's no way to filter alum, in-house counsel, New York, woman. Like, I've been asked to pull lists like that, and I've been asked to do it in a day. So we need more of an ability to track demographic information, and we need to be able to rely on alums to also provide that information to us. But you should have a list of your alumni who are in-house, who are in the various areas, distinguished alumni, judges, those sorts of things. You will be asked for that information. I've been asked by managing partners for partner meetings, what percentage of our lawyers went in-house, what percentage of them are in government, right, or private practicing at other firms. You need to be able, as an alumni relations person, to spit out that information in a meaningful way. And so I just want to plant that seed with you guys. So you need tools to be able to, help you do that. Matthew, you were going to say something. And I also, Matthew, can you answer for us first? How do you keep clean data, updated data for your alumni?
So I share, and I'm actually pleased to hear the struggles that well-heeled private sector is having that are very similar to us poor nonprofit universities. So we have not only a dichotomy with respect to a little bit of us and them, main campus and the law school and the segregation of data therein, but also the same issues you all face. And I'll call them, almost academic fiefdoms. So Professor so-and-so has her favorite law clerks and she knows where they are. And you have programs, but it could be practice groups, your antitrust group, your litigation group, whatever, but here in the law school, same fiefdoms, if you will, same silos. And what we don't have, and I think what we're talking about here again at the macro level, is a culture of sharing and an appreciation for the fact that this data needs to be centralized. I think people feel that data is power and that's their leverage. And what they don't realize is that they are minimizing the power and leverage of the institution itself by keeping it. But having been frustrated by that myself, in terms of myself personally, I'm part of the problem because I couldn't extrapolate the data that I wanted. I created my own alumni mentor database, and albeit it's only 1,000 folks, but these are folks that have said, sure, Pascocello, happy to speak with Danya about what I do here and there. So to your point, Stefanie, as a matter of fact, right now, I can pull for you a list of all female that work at the SEC in Nebraska. I can tell you of all folks that work in the public sector and on domestic violence issues. I could tell you who our Skadden, New York alumni are. So I developed this database because I'm thinking of my own selfish needs.
Right.
I need this in the future. But I've yet to see, and the university tells me, which to me, again, is a sad statement, but it's a nice pat on my back, that of the entire university, I have the best alumni data, the cleanest data, and I have it go out. I have it automatically set up, and this is something I created in-house, so that twice a year it sends out the alumnus's personalized link to their last known email address, the preferred email address, and
Yeah.
will you please update your profile, and that gets pushed back. So I wrestle with that too. We have CRMs. Our data is terrible. Our data is great. It depends on who. So if Phil can solve it for us, and if you could give us the nonprofit price of free.
Wait a minute, we know what you guys charge for tuition, so let's not.
You know what? 99% of it goes to paying salaries of people like, no.
That's great.
Well,
Money in, money out.
We're all in the same boat with regard to the fact that information, so by the way, one of the ways to get the info, so to Matthew's point, here's the info we have for you, update it. I have found giving them a reason to do that. So, make sure you're on our list for upcoming event, or make sure you have, you want CLE credit, do this, or you want to be in our class notes section, whatever. Now, one thing I'll tell you is that, a lot of you who manage alumni have this problem issue too, Tanya. You must have this, I used to have my lost alumni list, people, I knew the names, I knew when they worked at the firm, the emails didn't work anymore. So they were, so what I did was send that list out, say, help us, basically like a milk carton kind of thing, help us find an alum. Do you know where Phil Flora is? If so, send us his info. That actually worked. And then you will find out about, so back in the day, when I was out on the prairie, we also sent postcards to people who, because hear me out, right? I worked at a firm that had a very, very prominent trust and estates department. Their clients did not go on LinkedIn. Their clients did not actually want an e-newsletter. They wanted a hard copy newsletter. They were, so we have to go with what your audience wants. So what we did was, for these other people, we sent them postcards at home, and they actually responded and sent us their email addresses. So you have to go back to the basics sometimes with these things, because you can't send an email to them if the email is wrong. So Danya, what do you do? And Matthew, with these lost alumni, and also we all have our deceased alumni lists as well. I think it's important actually sometimes to let people, not let them know that someone has passed away, but to keep them in your database and in a way that's respectful, say that the person passed away in X year, because somebody may be trying to find them as well. So That's a lot. It's a mouthful. Danya, thoughts on that? Like, what do you do for your lost alumni? Do you just give up?
Well, okay, there's two parts there's two questions that you asked. So the first one was, what do you do with your lost alumni? So when I'm thinking lost alumni, I'm thinking alums that you just can't find emails for.
Yeah.
So one time when I worked at Verisk and like building their corporate alumni program, I decided to throw a campaign and it was during the holidays, and all of your best assets are your current employees, right? They still communicate with people that have left. They know where to find them some way or another. So I did a communication that said, if you can refer 2 alums and have them join the alumni network and have them update their data, then you can go into a raffle and win up to $100 Amazon gift card for the holidays.
Wow. Yes. So something.
And it actually worked.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did it from November until I did it from the beginning of November and ended the raffle like mid-December for the holiday, like $100 Amazon card. And I think I received about 1,400 to 1,500 updates for lost alumni.
Wow. Everybody, are you listening? It's the holidays. Like, you should implement.
It's like you just have to bribe them. I'm just kidding. But employees get really excited because they like to be engaged and it's something fun. And I make it so easy for them. All they have to do is share the link with the verbiage to friends that used to work there. And then they just have to click on it and then update their information. It takes 2 seconds.
Love that.
Yeah. The second part was, what do we do when we find out attorneys have passed? To be honest, I'm interested in hearing what Matthew says, because I really just note it in our database and say, do not contact unless an attorney reaches out and wants to do something special, make a donation, if they passed away with some sort of, issue with cancer. But other than that, I am interested in hearing Matthew's thoughts, because I really just note it in our system and I don't really do much else.
And by the way, I would say also, if you have a prominent alum, also a lawyer who's still at your firm, who's passed away, who the alumni would know, I have sent email communications like in memoriam. We wanted to let you know about so-and-so's passing. It is really important, I think, to do when it comes to like a prominent alum a prominent even lawyer who's still at that firm too. Matthew, what do you do about lost alumni and then also deceased alums?
Well, I think I'll summarize what you're all saying is sticks and carrots, right? So some of the carrots are the inducements, $100 Amazon card. That would be wonderful. We can't afford that. But what we do offer are other inducements with respect to, say, and this is indoctrination before your first year of law school. It's important to keep your information updated, not only while you're a student here, but for longevity into your alumni years. Because this is the kind of value, reciprocity you're going to get if we have your information. This is the data you're going to get. This is the information. This is the invitation. So if they see from the very early stage, as opposed to the day they graduate, if they see and if they are trained and if they are cultivated and shepherded through the process of sharing data because there's something in it for you, and then they'll do it more willingly. And if it becomes part of their habit, then they'll continue doing it. It's much harder for the alum that's 2 years out, a year out, 5 years out to get them to do that. They're like, why am I doing this? You're just going to solicit me. Unless, again, the carrots are, oh, you're going to be invited to your alumni reunion year, et cetera.
Right. What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? But then also the sticks, the disincentives, what's not in it for you.
Yeah.
Just the other side of that coin with the same kind of disincentives, if you will. But it is hard. It's challenging, and with respect to alumni that pass, that's that's a privacy issue, right? Unless it's a public figure that you feel like you can do a spread or a piece on them, you'd always still want to get the family's buy-in on that. We do have in our alumni publications, and to your earlier points about postcards and Little House on the Prairie, in case you haven't seen, bell bottoms are back, baby, right? So snail mail. So
snail mail is in again, guys. That's your key takeaway from today's presentation.
We definitely mail stuff out, and guess what happens?
I think we've forgotten
Return to sender, right?
the basic stuff, you know? So, okay, Danya, question for you. What has been, do you think, the most successful alumni initiative that you did with regard to, let's talk about like business development, like how to bring in more clients or make alums feel good about, you know, about potentially referring or using the firm? Or when I say business development, it could also be like for talent development as well. Like, so there's a lot of different things you can think about. And Matthew, same question for you. And then Phil, I want you to think about how law firms can use data for those two things, business development and recruiting. So Danya, let's hear from you first.
Sure. I'm going to spit out a little bit of data because not that much, just a really big figure. So Alumni Vendor People Path, for business development purposes, they provided us with a case study which centered around a global law firm that I'm not going to say, but the case study shows that $376 million in revenue came from alumni at clients in the past 6 years. That's a pretty big figure, and it's recent. Also, 19% of global top 20 deals had instrumental alumni involvement. So I think that they also mentioned that 43% in the legal industry currently offers outplacement support, which is huge. Nowadays, we have career development managers, which work hand in hand with alumni relation managers. And this really helps business development because outplacement support includes career counseling, resume development, cover letter assistance, interview training. And then when I post in-house positions at our clients, an attorney can benefit and go in-house and then bring back more business. And I know there's a little, well, I know some attorneys will say, well, why are we going to lose our attorneys and have them go in-house? That doesn't make any sense. We want to keep all our attorneys. But I feel as if an attorney is leaving, they're going to leave with our help or without our help.
Exactly. And that lawyer needs to remember that this is like a different generation, a different time period, and not everybody actually wants to make partner or stay at a firm forever, right?
Yeah, so I think it'll be good for the attorney that wants to go in-house or do something else because it's a win-win situation. So I thought that's a great example for business development purposes. For Boomerang, I can say that, again, I'm spitting out another figure, but recently NAP had basically had a PowerPoint called The Great Resignation and Alumni Programs. And it was by Dr. Becky Pellick, who's the assistant professor of UBC Saunders School of Business. And she said that 29% in the legal industry expect 1 to 10% of hires to be boomerangs because they're great assets to the firm. They already know the company's culture. And it's not uncommon to have an associate leave, go in-house, come back to the firm as a partner. So I mentioned this before, instead of having an alumni spotlight, law firms can feature boomerang spotlights to hire attorneys that have left and come back. And I know that we're really going to be focusing on talent development with alumni and bringing boomerangs back, as well as business development.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So Matthew, same question for you about like what has been the most effective with business development with regard to like some of the alumni initiatives that you're doing.
Yeah, so it's not that we go for that motive specifically, because it's not something that I think alumni look to their law schools for principally. Having said that,
well, but wait, I know that my universities are going to ask me for money and it's different, right? Like business development, I guess it's more like fundraising for you or however you want to take the question, you know, it's different for you than it is for law firms.
okay. I thought the question was what we can do for alumni in the context of helping them develop their businesses. Did I misunderstand?
Oh, well, no, take it that way if you want. Sure.
Well, so I guess two different dynamics here, but one of the things we'll do like what alumni really want from their law schools is that that connection to leadership, right? So they want to rub elbows with the dean, and they want to rub elbows like we did up in New York, say, a big fat steakhouse in Manhattan, with people of their status.
Circle, their status, their group.
Right, you know,
yeah.
their
Networking.
rainmaking partners, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
right. They
or
want
their brand new associates, whatever, they feel comfortable in their pool, swimming in their pool. And sometimes there's lots of opportunities to cross-pollinate, and that's great too. But for business development, so a lot of this happens on the one-on-one connection. I do a lot of that one-on-one. Like just yesterday, I was speaking with an alumna partner, IP partner out west, who knows I have another alum with, you know, probably one of the world's largest software developers. And I was able to make a alum to alum connection. So I will personally connect those dots. So, but there's just so much of that, you know, I could do individually. So in terms of the institution, I think they're looking for that when a one-on-one can be made. And if they know, hey, Pascocello will do that for me, and they know to ask me, it's my pleasure to do that.
Right.
And to the extent that the institution can do that from the leadership, dean to dean, or create environments for these pockets of alumni to create, you know, business opportunities for each other, that they'll do that. I also have actually on my listserv that goes out, I actually put in a section called the Alumni Bulletin Board, which allows alumni to not solicit per se referrals, but say, hey, I'm practicing. It's a soft solicitation, if you will. I might be breaking some rules of ethics in terms of business solicitation, but I'll put things like that out there. Now, in terms of us asking for money, if you will, in the development on our side, I think perhaps same as what the law firms do. And if you don't, maybe you should think of doing it. Ask. You have to ask. Like actually
Again, back to basics, right?
One of the alumni, I'm sorry to just beat up this last week's example, but he said, just ask me for a effing donate, and it, you know, donation, and we're talking in the nice six figures.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking to business to business, they get it. Now, if you're asking for a $50 donation here and there are different ways to solicit that. But at the end of the day, none of this is Machiavellian. None of this is ulterior. All of this is,
it's reciprocal.
I just finished a law firm challenge just literally last week, where I was out there, I was working the phones, I was calling folks at alumni, and I was trying to pitch this friendly competition, business to business. Hey, it's a gamified money-making development. And let's be honest with what it is, but guess what? You get to be promoted, your firm gets to be promoted, we promote you, you know, you go for the ego, the vanity points, and we're going to put it out there and celebrate you, and we're going to put it in the alumni magazine. So it's reciprocal.
It's reciprocal, community, it's all of those things, but just ask kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phil, in terms of, and I know we're running out of time, so we're going to close it out in the next minute or so. Phil, any thoughts on like how law firms can use this data and use their alumni information for business development and recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was a webinar we were just doing a couple of weeks ago, where someone said you develop most of your business with, you know, your attorneys will develop it by contacting 15 people over the course of the year or something. You'll develop most of your business over the course of the year. So, you know, you want to develop this community like that we've been talking about. You want to, you know, as people are leaving the firm, you want to develop the interest in having them want to provide back to you as either an opportunity down the road that they can develop business, or you know, the boomerang effect, right? You know, right now firms are struggling with everyone's going after the same corporate associate, you know, and from New York with X amount of years experience. You're going to find that your recruiting pipeline could definitely come from your alumni network. So creating that community, you know, I think where Matthew probably has success in getting a lot of those folks to respond on his LinkedIn is people love their schools, right? I mean, that's a nice, you know, everyone wants, like, I still get mailings from my school all the time. And,
right.
And I'm always, I was just down there a couple months ago, after,
It's different. You're
it's
right. Your alma mater holds a very special place in
Yeah.
your heart, not necessarily the law firm at which you
That's
work,
right.
right?
That's right.
But
So
that's the challenge we have as law firms to build
That's right.
that, or corporations.
So creating that community, maintaining those relationships, keeping tabs of those folks, providing meaningful content, and you never know where business might come from. Either might have an opportunity where someone comes back with a lot more experience after they left your firm, and they can really help your firm in a lot of other ways, or it becomes an opportunity for a client.
Absolutely. And I can't stress enough, again, the importance of mending relationships and being inclusive. And you really can fix some, bad blood, or just, hurt feelings about being let go, or whatever it is within an alumni program. So in terms of just final thoughts, takeaways, Danya, you want to ask each of you to just give me a takeaway. Mine is that be inclusive, think of every and anybody as a potential source of business, or an employee, or a recruit, or, like I said, referral. And alumni relations programs can offer so much. Remember, your alums don't want to stay with you forever. I'm sorry, your lawyers probably aren't going to stay with you forever. So it is important at the get-go to build this community and stay in touch with them in a meaningful way, like Phil said, with content that's meaningful. But please don't lose touch with your alums. You need help finding those people. And Danya, anything you want to say or take away for today?
I mean, you pretty much summed it up. But so I think as far as just staying in touch with your alums is great. I want to bring in the diversity, the D&I inclusion. I know we didn't really get a chance to talk about that, but it's really prevalent in the past 2 years. So also a great thing is having different, even though we're not a law school, we can still have certain affinity groups, like a women's alumni group, or, a diversity and inclusion group, or just, different groups to help alums identify on a more personal level than sort of like a practice group level, because we can still make it fun and inclusive in other ways.
I love that. Yeah, the women alumni group should be something you all have, a diversity one. There are lots of different ways to segment your alumni according to different, things that are important to them, not just practice group and class year. So remember that. Thank you for that. Matthew?
I was just trying to scribble down a couple of words of wisdom, but they're redundant at this point. But I'll just say, be genuine in your mission, and be transparent with your objectives. Let alumni know what you're trying to do for them, and ask them, what is it that you need? Find out where the demand curve lives by asking them, as opposed to guessing through a senior partner who might not even believe in your department where they should be. So creating a purposeful, strategic program that meets the particular needs and the culture and the values of your firm, your institution, sharing that mission, and being transparent with not only what you can do for them, but the ask. What you want from them, just ask.
Just ask, like you said. And those of you who don't have an alumni strategic plan should have one as well. Like, what are your goals for the year? What you want to accomplish? Make it simple, make it easy to execute, but having a master plan and involving other departments. So I see them all the time at law firms. I'm sure you see this at a higher education institution. There are a lot of different departments need to talk to each other. Danya, is alumni in marketing, or is it in recruiting, or is it its own group at Safe Harbor?
It's marketing, business development and marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see it in different places. When I first started, I was in the professional development / legal recruiting department, but then it got moved to marketing. But wherever it lives, you need to be in close contact with your recruiting department, with your library department, with the IT. Like, there's so many different groups that you need to make sure that you're in communication with. Phil, any parting thoughts from you on anything, words of wisdom?
No, I mean, I think the last part, you really hit it on the head. I mean, collaboration, I think we talked about it earlier, but, going to the different departments and asking what resources you currently have access to, understanding the different technologies the organization has, the CRM, You just need a lot of people to work together. I know Matthew mentioned that sometimes it is folks that keep that to themselves, right? And I think it's so important to try and, you know, entice in folks that it's for the betterment of everyone as a whole to share and collaborate and work together. So I think that would be the best. And data is king.
Data is king. I think that's a good place to end the conversation. So I want to thank you guys for all of your insights today. If you missed this entire webinar and you want a copy of it, let us know. If you want the slides from today, do reach out to Phil. You can certainly reach out to me. Please link in with each of us and join us for those future programs, the one on Friday on Top Recruiter Secrets, and the one on December 7th, where we're going to try and recap this crazy booming year. Thank you guys again, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Real pleasure. Thank you. I learned a lot.
Same,
Me too.
Same, absolutely.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.